Hey Dirt Magicians, welcome to our second video on winterizing the garden. If you haven't already, check out our first video where we talk about living mulches in the garden here on our channel. But today we're going to be talking all about the dead mulches, so the not living plant organic material that we can put in our gardens for the winter. Now, mulching over the winter is so important for our gardens. It insulates the soil and it also protects a lot of beneficial organisms. In today's video, we will discuss all of the reasons why it's important to mulch, as well as what kinds of mulch we can use in our garden, and also what to do to prepare for winter, like other tasks that we need to do. And make sure to check out our freebie, which is the best leaves to mulch with, where we go into more detail about the tree leaves you want to look out for that will be the most productive for your garden. Click this link in the description box below to download that freebie ASAP. Click the link in the description box below and stay right till the very end where we discuss what to do with those mulches come the spring. Our mission here on Dirt Magicians is to help you learn from other gardeners, i.e. Dirt Magicians. So let us help you learn by peeking over the garden fence. Today we're peeking into Trisha's yard. All right, so firstly, let's talk about what exactly a mulch is. We use mulches mostly to protect our soil or insulate it in some capacity, so it goes on the top. For winter, we're definitely talking about insulation, and it's usually some kind of dead plant material that we're putting on the soil to protect it. So that includes things like straw, leaves, pine boughs, bark wood chips, and then some non-organic or non-plant material ones would be something like tarps. All right, so let's now chat about the reasons it's important to mulch over the winter. Firstly, a mulch will protect our soils from heavy precipitation, whether that's rainfall or snowfall. So when we have heavy precipitation of some kind, we can lose nutrients through what's called leaching, which is basically flushing the soil. So these are nutrients that are water soluble, which means they dissolve into the water. And one of the big ones that is a concern is nitrogen, as it is very water soluble. So when we have heavy rainfall or when we have snow melt, it will leach it, flush it right through the soil, and then we have to re-add amendments or compost the next spring in higher amounts. So we're spending more money. There's more environmental issues with having to buy more of those nutrients. So just protecting the soil and keeping it in our system is something we really want to do. Secondly, it really protects against compaction and crusting from some of these heavy precipitation events. So if a soil is left bare and it gets a hard rainfall or it gets rain and that freezes, we can get something called crusting, which is where the soil actually seals over. And that makes it really hard in the spring to be able to germinate seeds, to be able to have the water flow in properly, to have the roots be able to go down. The second issue is called compaction, and that's where throughout the whole soil profile, the structure of the soil collapses. So that makes it really hard to be able to dig. It makes it hard for roots to get down into the soil. It makes water, it makes airflow all really hard to get down deep into the soil. So we really want to avoid that. And if something as simple as mulching over the winter will protect our soils from that. So the next few reasons we want to mulch is that it insulates from fluctuating temperatures. So no season is perfect and just has uniform temperatures. And any winter we can have a really random warm spell or a really random freezing cold spell, which are my least favorite for sure. So if it gets really warm, we don't want new growth to be triggered or insects to wake up prematurely and then die in the next freezing spell. Similarly, we don't want things to freeze that with enough insulation could just stay in a nice, content, snugly dormant phase. So before we mulch, there's actually a few things we want to do in preparation for mulching to winterize our garden. The first and the most important is to remove any dead, dying, or diseased plant material that's left in our garden. So as our plants die back, they've stopped producing, we want to just take those out of the garden, especially the vegetables. Otherwise, as they die, they're just like a magnet for diseases and pests that really like kind of that diseased, easy to enter plant material. So taking that out of the garden means that we're not going to have higher disease and pest pressure. And then the one exception is actually with our flowers, especially our perennials, kind of anything that's woody, we want to leave that. So I think the habit is usually to cut back dead flower stalks and stuff like that. However, when they die, they create this sort of woody hollowness, and our little ladybugs and other insects like bees will actually live in those and hibernate over the winter. So keep those, actually. It might not look as pretty, but you've created so many more homes for so many beneficial insects. So those are the steps we want to take before we start mulching. So our first mulch, and the one I recommend because it's just so widely available and free, are leaves. These are garden gold. So this is an excellent mulch that we can add. You definitely just want to break this up if you can by running it over with a lawnmower or something like that to make sure that it will really stick into the soil and break down more easily later on. You might also want to weight it down with just a couple of rocks or something so it doesn't blow away over the winter time. So leaves are for sure my favorite mulch, not only because they're free, but also they just break down the easiest come the springtime of everything. And if you don't have your own leaves, you can ask your neighbors or steal them if it's in a plastic bag and they've put it out to go into the trash. We call this our fall garden gold just because it's free, it breaks down really easily, and it's everywhere. Now, our second mulch is for those unfortunate folk who don't live somewhere with deciduous trees. So this would be far up north, but you could use pine boughs on here, and that will do a nice protective layer as well. And our third mulch is straw. So this is great if you live near farms or you've got hay bales. Often it's actually used in the summer to keep moisture in, but it can also be a great winter insulator as well. And our fourth mulch is wood chips, which you can usually get for free if you contact a local arborist or use an app called Chip Drop. Many people use these, however, I don't really recommend them in our garden beds. And the reason I don't is just because if they get mixed into the soil, they can tie up nutrients. And the way they do this is because they're so thick and woody, our soil organisms have to expend so much energy to break these down that they will actually take some nutrients from the soil to break them down, which can remove them from our plants that need them at that time. Our fifth mulch is something we find in our homes, and that is cardboard. We have to be a little bit careful with cardboard because if it's just laid flat completely, it can actually kind of prevent oxygen from getting into the soil. So we might want to put a few leaves or a few sticks or layer it in a way so that it's not totally flat. You'd also want to make sure you remove some things like the tape. So this can be another mulch if we're getting desperate and we've missed out on leaves and stuff like that. Our last and final mulch is a tarp. This is not organic, and it's kind of only if you're desperate. I wouldn't really recommend this as it's not going to insulate as well as the other materials we suggested, but it will protect from rainfall, and it's better than leaving the soil bare. You made it! You stayed right till the very end. So now we'll discuss what we do with our mulches come the spring. And what we do varies on the type of mulch. For our first one, our tarp, we're just gonna remove it, clean it off, store it away, say thank you, use it for our camp entrance. Our second option here would be our cardboard, and there's two options. We could just remove it and put it in our compost, or we could apply a thick layer of compost over top of it and seed right on top. That might actually be nice for weed suppression. In this case, I'm gonna remove it. For our pine boughs, it's too big to kind of be mixed into the soil, so we would also just remove those, but we could use it as a mulch around different perennials like blueberry bushes or different fruit and nut trees, etc. Now for wood chips, I would also recommend like our pine boughs that we remove them. But again, these are great now for our perennials. So putting them at the base of our different trees, our blueberry bushes, our flowers will really help conserve moisture over the summer. So mulch can just be moved to there. And lastly, for both our straw and our leaves, there's actually a few different things that we can do in the spring with these ladies. So firstly, we could just compost them. The next thing we can do is actually mix them right into the soil, so kind of bury them and chop them up. And the third thing is we could put them aside, and then when we are hitting peak summer where it's really hot and where it's not raining a lot, we can actually add this back in as a mulch to help prevent with moisture loss in our gardens, which means we have to water less and our plants are sort of kept cooler and more hydrated. So as you can see, there's a lot of different ways that we can mulch and protect our soil over the winter. And what we do with these mulches depends on where we live and what works best for us. And in the spring, depending on the mulch, there's a different way that we treat it. Well, Dirt Magicians, that's the end of our video. If you learned something valuable, make sure to mulch that subscribe button and like our video, as it helps up and coming content creators like us. Also, don't forget that we have a freebie for you, all about the different types of leaves that are great as a winter mulch to make your garden the most productive. So click the link there in the description box below and download it right now. See you next time!